What is good, everybody? This is your guy Manny, and this is the Talking Sports with Manny channel. We're going to talk Brian Robinson Jr. versus Antonio Gibson. There's been some reports that are going out there saying that Ron Rivera wants to compare these guys to Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams when they played for Carolina. A lot of people are kind of upset of Ron Rivera comparing his current players to former Panthers players. The last time he did that, he said Antonio Gibson is going to be used like Christian McCaffrey, yet he doesn't play third down, yet they didn't even give him the amount of receptions he was supposed to get. Although Antonio Gibson did have a career high last year in receptions, I mean, it's just like you don't know what Scott Turner's going to do. You don't know how the evolution of Antonio Gibson, and with Antonio Gibson fumbling the ball last season, it does not make a case for him moving forward. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to dive on into it. There's a great article written by CBS Sportsline, or CBS Sports. It used to be called Sportsline, but CBS Sports. Let's see what they're talking about as we break down this story. So it says Ron Rivera likens Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson's potential to Stewart/Williams duo for the Panthers. This story right here was written by Brian Adro. So just want to give him credit because this is not my work. This is his work. So we all know what Brian Robinson was able to do in Alabama. Anybody who's coming from Alabama that's a running back, most times, not all the time, most times they succeed in the NFL. Granted, he does have that third-round draft capital behind his name. So that is pretty good. Same draft capital that Antonio Gibson had. But Antonio Gibson coming to D.C., he was literally the only running back of note that was on the team until they cut Adrian Peterson, giving the reins to Antonio Gibson. He came in at a time when we lost Adrian Peterson and we lost my main guy, Darius Geis. So this is just now time to draft another running back. I believe you should draft a running back every 2 years because in 2 years, guess what? Antonio Gibson's deal is done. In 2 years after that, Brian Robinson's deal is finished. So it's always good to just always have a revolving door of bringing in the back every 2 years because running backs do get hurt. You don't want to be caught like how Darius Geis got hurt and then you didn't really have the replacement to, replace, and then you went with the Adrian Peterson thing. Then eventually you get Antonio Gibson. So with the Antonio Gibson fumble issues, you bring in a guy in Brian Robinson who is a bruiser, a guy who's going to, get those tough yards. So obviously the NFL is a pass-happy offense. Plenty teams in the league are passing the ball. And people are saying that Ron Rivera won in the 80s and, running the ball and playing defense, you can't win that way anymore. I disagree. Baltimore Ravens have been close to winning so many times that it's so hard to win in the playoffs. Like, you need a combination of several different things. Even the best quarterbacks don't win. Ask Aaron Rodgers, right? He didn't win anything. So they want to run the ball. And if you're going to run the ball, it's going to improve the Washington's defense, which is something that I'm really interested in seeing how this combination operates. Now, for the Panthers, that duo combined for 4,700 yards and 23 touchdowns in their time together between 2011 to 2014. So these are two backs that, ran the ball very well. They were able to catch the ball as well. You had one that was predominantly running the ball, Jonathan Stewart, and you had Williams on the other hand, who was more dynamic. So they had that thunder and lightning combo going. And I think one of those years, both guys were able to get 1,000 yards each. The only way I see Antonio Gibson and Robinson getting 1,000 yards each in a season is, number one, both guys have to be healthy. Number two, Washington has to be winning a lot of games. If you're winning a lot of games, that means you're running the ball to kill the clock. You run the ball, you kill the clock, it makes the defense better. Now you got your pass rushers fresh and healthy and rotating. So this run game is really going to help what happens with this team defensively. So I'm looking forward to that. So Robinson ran for 1,300 plus yards and 14 touchdowns during his final season at Alabama. This guy, he is a bruiser. Not only is he a bruiser, he's an underrated pass catcher. I talked about that on my previous pod. So this could potentially be a very good 1-2 punch. I'm looking forward to it. And then on top of that, you have J.D. McKissick, who's really going to come in on third down. So Now you have a three-way split in terms of the workload. You're going to have Antonio Gibson and Robinson Jr. taking care of that, those first two downs. Then you have McKissick coming in there because he is a very good pass protection guy. Now, if Brian Robinson Jr. can pass protect like J.D. McKissick, then you can see him out there on third downs. I feel like he can be a good three-down back in the future. Just because he's bigger, he's stronger, he can absorb more. Granted that, he doesn't get hurt. And if Gibson was to get hurt, then you have a guy in Robinson Jr. who can come in and give you, some kind of play, some kind of stability. Everybody on Twitter has been asking me, so what happens with Jaret Patterson? Jaret Patterson still has a chance to make this team, especially if the team elects to go with 4 running backs. If they go to 4 running backs, Jaret Patterson becomes your 4th running back who can do a little bit of both. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He's a pure running back. So now you'll have 2 guys that are pure running backs on the team. You have 2 guys that were converted wide receiver to running backs that have some receiving upside. Now, if the team elects to go with 3 running backs on the roster, then you can find Jaret Patterson on that practice squad. Obviously, he can get picked up by any other team that's looking for a running back. But although I love Jaret Patterson, he doesn't move the needle for me. Another way Jaret Patterson can make his case to being on that 53 is that if he can return kickoffs and punts, then guess what? He makes the 53 as the 4th running back, and that solidifies his spot on this team in case of injury. Then he's elevated on that depth chart. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you guys think that there's enough touches for Brian Robinson and Gibson to succeed together? Can they coexist? Because for me, I see a 1A and a 1B in terms of our running back room. So you guys let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys on that next video. Peace.